Well, I have never been much of a poker player. I watch sometimes those poker games online or actually on television, and they're showing the probabilities of a winning hand, and I just get confused, and the announcers are talking about strategies, and I can't. I'm normally good on math, but again, poker just mostly seems to be beyond me. So even less to my advantage is I don't seem to be good at keeping a poker face. The kind of face that would not betray you if you were holding crap cards and you were really bluffing, hoping that the other person would fold. I just couldn't get away with it. I mean, my face is a tell that gives me away. Even my mom, when I was a boy, used to say that I was a lousy liar. She could take one look at me and tell if I was telling the truth or not. I don't think it's that she had such a good lie detector. It's just that I was such a bad liar. So much for a good poker face. So much for my poker skills. For those reasons and others, I tend to avoid poker games. But today on Finding Traction, I want to ask this question, which you might have be familiar with in poker language. What is your tell when it comes to porn? Do you have a tell? And it's a crucial question, not just in poker apparently, but it's a crucial question to ask yourself when you're setting yourself up for success in moving away from porn and towards a better life. And we're going to explore that concept after the break. Welcome aboard.
Guys ready?
When it comes to porn, are you stuck, spinning out, or slipping backwards in your life? If so, then welcome to the Finding Traction podcast, a show dedicated to those who are looking to gain recovery momentum away from porn and toward the life and relationships they have always hoped for. Now, here's your host, Vern Tomke.
Well, as we get started here, let me say what I often do each week. I do love to connect with guys. We not only have a website, bandofbrothers.care, but I have an email, bandofbrothers.care, that's .care, @gmail.com. And I love to connect with guys in terms of answering questions about where they're at with their porn struggle, maybe how I can give them some skills or help in terms of that. I've even worked with some guys around marriage skills. Me and my wife for, about 15 years, we ran a John Gottman marriage course. So oftentimes in working with guys in recovery, we end up talking about their marriages and some of the skills that they can develop to be a better husband. Talking about marriage, today I want to give a shout out to my most wonderful wife of 37 years today. Today is our wedding anniversary. My wife has been tremendously gracious to me as I've struggled through porn addiction, has been a partner, has been a confidant. And so 37 years today, May 17th. So it's got to be for something. So there we go. I always like to say 37 blissful years, right, babe? And, she usually responds somewhat in the affirmative. So I do love to connect with guys, so please reach out. All right, so let's go back to this idea of poker and having a tell. And this is important to kind of marry this concept with a diagram that I shared back in episode 73. It was called the stopwatch acting out cycle. And again, you can go back and listen to that in episode 73. You can download it on the website, bandofbrothers.care. There's a number of documents there that could be of help. But if you go back and take a listen to that, just a quick reminder, I'm just going to talk about a couple parts of that. It's like a stopwatch. At the very top, true north is 12 noon on the stopwatch face, or it'd be like a clock. And 12 noon is where we live when we're having a sense of peace or equilibrium, sobriety, serenity, whatever term you want to use. We're dealing with life on life's terms, and porn is not a central or overriding factor in our day in terms of our thoughts and actions. And that's called peace. That's called when we're living out our best days, our best intentions, or that old phrase, we're living our best life. My wife hates that phrase. I use it on her just to bug her sometimes. Honey, are you living your best life? But anyways, in that 12 noon place, our defenses are working. Again, our thoughts are relatively clear, and we're mostly focused on the life we want to live, not the life that we don't want to live that keeps pursuing us or returning. So that's 12 noon, true north. Now, then something happens. A trigger, a lightning bolt happens that starts the clock ticking. And now porn begins that process of interjecting its way into our lives and becoming a present threat. Something sets us off. Now, in that earlier episode, as we were looking at some ways of reverse engineering that in terms of gaining some success over that, one of the things I had said was the sooner you realize what has happened, the better are your chances to intervene. Early intervention has a much higher chance of success than late intervention when you're already into the pursuit phase. That was like the third station on that clock. So the question is this: how do I tell when that arousal stopwatch has been triggered and I have moved off that true north position? And this is where the idea of a tell comes in. It's an early signal or indicator that you are now off your place of stability and equilibrium. Now, I'm going to give you 5 examples that either guys have reported to me or I've noticed from my own experience that are pretty good tells that the clock is ticking. Again, not everybody's the same, and some guys it's one or the other, but I think these 5 will cover most of the conversations I've had. Here's the first tell, and I'm just going to call it panning and scanning. You know, when you're doing well, excuse me, when you're doing well, you can be around women, you can see them as people or sisters or daughters, or you can treat them accordingly with respect, with not objectifying them, not doing that glance that you're checking out all their parts, and living in a way where, again, you're not panning and scanning. But when you notice that you're now noticing a lot more, your glances are a lot longer and more longing, and you're now super and hyper aware of every woman that comes into your life, or your vision or your periphery or your eyesight, and you're just looking and panning and scanning, and your eyes are seeking out targets, that is a good sign that something has previously happened and that you are now ticking, even a ticking time bomb, right? That the arousal template has started. And that's the very first thing some guys say. I notice when I'm doing well, I seem to do fine. If I'm not, I could be in a crowd, I could be at church, I could be at work, and I am just constantly looking for little hits. One of my friends calls it lust hits, or whatever term you want to use. I'm just looking and checking and rating and ranking women based on body parts. That would be a great tell, first of all, for some of the guys. Number 2 is, I'm going to call it research. It's one of the terms that in working with guys we've come up with, and we're going to call it researching. What do you mean by research? Well, research is you start. It's kind of a dark side of curiosity. So you see an actress or actor, I guess they're supposed to be called, but you know what I mean, on a TV show, and then you start, oh gee, I wonder how old she is. I wonder, is she married? I wonder what other pictures what other movies she's in. I wonder if there's other pictures of her, right? I'm just doing research, right? Some guys, it's around like men's health. I got some guys that are, they always start, well, I want to check into erectile dysfunction or, some sort of men's health issue. I'm doing research. And, and again, there is some version of simple denial happening here. If the last 10 times you did research, it ended up in not a good place, why would the 11th time be any different? So if you find yourself playing the research game, it's a tell, an indicator that you are ticking, that you've been triggered. So that's another, number 2. First one is panning and scanning. Second one is research. Number 3 is scrolling. I mean, scrolling is such a common tell for guys. And it's a little bit subtle because in the early parts of scrolling, you're just on your social media platform or YouTube or short or whatever it is, and you're just scrolling through the shorts or the videos, and it's kind of passive because you're just kind of like going through the channels, so to speak, and that could just be a same example of going through TV channels as well. Of course you're looking for some kind of a sexual hit or a buzz, but at the first parts of that, you're still passive. After all, the videos are coming to you, right? You're not searching for the videos. So that is that passive early sort of scrolling, which for many guys is such a clear tell. Something's going on. I am looking right now for stuff. I'm not at 12 noon. I'm not in a place of peace or serenity. Of course, you all know what happens after the passive scrolling goes on. Then it moves to more active scrolling where you're just typing in names or you're just typing in innocuous things that you think might not trigger maybe a report or, wouldn't be porn, but are going to give you some sort of hit. The scrolling is a tell. And of course, that turns into a preoccupation that eventually leads into more of a full-blown pursuit of stimulation, right? So scrolling. Talking about stimulation, the fourth one is physical touching. And what I mean by that is, as an early boys, often we learn to physically touch ourselves, to soothe ourselves, or to get pleasure, some of those things. And I've had a number of guys say, I begin to touch myself to bring some sort of stimulation. I mean, I'm not talking about a full-blown masturbation session here, but I'm just talking about a little pleasure. Just to remind myself I'm still alive, right? I still got it, right? Whatever. And that is such a common tell for guys. And again, this is not a whole, diatribe against masturbation or not. And that's not where I'm going. But I'm just saying that it is a tell that you are probably ticking. There is some sort of negative emotions you're trying to deal with, some things you've learned. You're trying to soothe yourself in some way, or you're trying to get just little bits of pleasure to advance just this sexual sort of buzz in your day. So physical touching. The fifth one is fantasy. Fantasy is a pretty surefire tell for some guys that something has happened that started the clock ticking. It could be guys report, I just have these little short vignettes of fantasy. I could be lying in bed, I could be trying to go to sleep, or I should be getting up, but it could be very short, these little happy escapes where I go to my favorite happy alternate reality. I haven't done anything yet, but my mind is just jumping to my favorite fantasy scenario of choice. And it's a sign that they are, in one sense, starting to prime themselves or groom themselves for the next stage of preoccupation and then pursuit. For some guys, that's the surefire tell. Again, not everyone represents every person, but I would guess that one of those 5 has some degree of truth for you. So just to go back, a tell is an indication that your arousal cycle has been activated and you're now in a ticking fashion towards acting out. Could be panning and scanning, could be research, it could be scrolling or physical touching of yourself or just floating fantasies. And the whole idea here, again, self-awareness is crucial. And those are just some ways that, and here's the key, if we're honest with ourselves, it tells us that something is now going on. That sort of thing could be a way of explaining how, sometimes you may have noticed you mistakenly feel, I feel pretty strong and pretty good. And then could be that in the morning. And then by the afternoon, you suddenly have a relapse and you go, well, what happened? It could be that you had already been in process. You had already been ticking for a while. You just didn't recognize it. Now, if you want to find what do you do with that ticking clock to reset it back to 12 noon, and by resetting, I don't mean the false restart of acting out. I mean, that doesn't help anybody. That simply reinforces the problem. But how do I get back to a place of relative sanity and equilibrium? You can go back and check that stopwatch episode out. It talks about ways that we can reset ourselves, but it all starts again with this idea of early awareness and understanding what our tells are that say that we're actually not as strong or as stable as we think we are. So hopefully that helps. Till next time, once again, stay green, have a great day, and we'll see you next time.